Hi, I'm Angela Rose, and today we're making faux ceiling beams, and I'm calling them beams of dreams. So I've always dreamed of having a bedroom with gorgeous ceilings, and when I walked into the space for the first time, I was like, this is screaming for beams, and I know just what I'm gonna do. I got the inspiration from actually my favorite vacation spot growing up. I would go to my grandma's house on Lido Island, and in this beach house, she had these gorgeous white plank and beam ceiling, and I thought, this is gonna be perfect in this room. The way that my ceiling works basically kind of called for the design. It's got this really cool arch, and so I thought I need a giant beam right down the middle. But then I wanted to have some smaller beams kind of offshooting that, but I also wanted to plank in between all of that. That way this entire ceiling is just this one cohesive ceiling of awesomeness. So to visualize, I drew everything out, looked at what was on the ceiling, avoided vents, made sure everything was basically kind of evenly spaced out. Secret, I kind of cheat things over a few inches to avoid vents and things like that. And I was ready to go. So for the ceiling supports, I first needed scaffolding because these ceilings are hella tall. And I needed a helping hand because I'm not a superhero. And I marked where all my joists were in the ceiling because I don't want these beams crashing down on my head. So I used 2x4s and 2x6s and just took long screws and I screwed them into those ceiling joists, made sure they were super securely attached. I know these aren't really pretty, but I don't really care because this is the inside foundation of these beams and it's gonna get covered up, but now I know that these are completely in place and ready to go for the beams. For the planking, I decided to use a knotty pine because I didn't want it to feel super refined. I wanted it to feel a little bit more rustic and casual and beachy. And planking. You guys, this is the story that never ends. I prepped a lot of the boards outside and painted them outside just so that all the finishing work would be easier, but the amount of cutting and walking up and down the stairs and nailing, I'm telling you, like, I was so grateful for all the shoulder workouts that I'd been doing because this was an arm workout. So pretty much I'm just cutting boards, nailing them in, cutting, nailing, up and down the stairs, up and down the stairs, and eventually this whole ceiling got done. And the planking automatically makes it look so rad. Do you know how many boards I cut and installed on the ceiling? The answer is 160. I know, you're saying, Ange, was it all worth it? I'm telling you, it was. This is my new favorite spot. So there are two styles of beams that I like to make. So there's the sandwich method where you just nail a board in the side of the support, another board, and then lay one on top, okay? You can see the ends of it, but it's a great method. The other way is the seamless method where you actually miter the edges at 45s and then you wrap it all together and it looks like a seamless beam. Now, I was working with pine boards that were not super straight and not super perfect, and there was a lot of heavy stuff happening, and I thought, I do not want to run the risk of assembling this whole seam board and trying to jam it up here. It just seemed like a hot mess. You've got to work with really nice material for that. So I thought, why not sandwich it? So now to the fun part, we're installing the beams. This is so fun to watch it come together because they're faux beams, but they look real and solid. And all that it is this sandwich method like I told you about. We take one board, we cut it, nail it onto one of the supports. Then you do the other side, and then you put the bottom up. Now, these are pretty big beams, and I didn't want them to sway side to side, so I added some blocking against the wall so that the beams wouldn't themselves sway back and forth. Wasn't this like, did you do this in middle school? And then also, since the spans were too long for the areas that I had, we had to often piece together boards to make that happen, which meant that I added some blocking in between where those seams were gonna go as well. That way the beam didn't do any of these kind of back and forth. There's a lot of clamping to get things as tight as possible, and then nailing everything in and muscling it. This makes you feel so cool. Beams are so cool. You rinse and repeat. You're nailing, you're clamping, you're nailing, and gradually all these little Tetris pieces form into these giant, gorgeous, and rad beams. To this being
the last piece.
The last piece!
Let's go!
Woo! The finishing work and painting prep. This part is my least favorite part, but it's so important. I have a hidden secret, which is something called a backer rod. And that means when there's a gap where you're like, this is hella janky, there's no way I can fill this with caulk, You put this backer rod in it, and then you can put the caulk over it, and you're not wasting a whole tube of caulk on it. We also went through and we filled nail holes, caulked around all the edges, got everything ready. This took forever. I had help, and I think I lost track of the amount of hours. Usually with the finishing work, I hit a point where I'm like, what did I do? Why did I think this project was a good idea? I am never gonna be finished, but this is the never-ending story part 2. You guys, it does end, and it's always a happy ending. So for painting the ceiling, there are a few things that I've learned, and that's sometimes I like to hire out jobs. And when it deals with a ceiling with a million grooves and a million boards, I don't want to be rolling that thing. It's just best to get sprayed. And I have my friend Tim, who has the perfect crew. And so he taped off everything, got it all prepped and ready, sprayed the whole thing down, and it looked gorgeous. And the beams of my dreams are done. And I am telling you, I am thrilled with this project. It instantly, completely transforms the space. It is my new favorite place in the house. I do have some other things to do to complete the whole transformation of my room, but already these beams make... Are you speechless? I'm speechless. And that's it. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, just comment below.